Good Friday evening, everyone. It's David Schlotthauer here with a very urgent weather forecast because we're talking about a significant risk for flooding, serious ice storm going on across the upper Great Lakes into the Northeast, and then, of course, we're talking about multiple severe weather events coming. One for this weekend and another one for the middle of next week. So we have a lot to talk about in today's video. So to start off the video, here's a look at the latest National Weather Service alerts. And yeah, there's a bit to talk about here, especially for the Great Lakes and the Northeast, where there are winter weather advisories, winter storm warnings, and very rare enough, there are ice storm warnings for northern Michigan, for northern portion there of Wisconsin. And that's because we are talking about a crippling ice storm in these locations. There's even winter weather advisories due to the fact that there will be some snow, sleet, and icy conditions in these other areas that I've circled in black. So yeah, it's not looking good at all. And then down here, there are tornado watches, flood watches, because this is going to be the area where we're also going to have to contend with some significant flooding concerns over the next 7 to 10 days. So when we take a look at our latest 12Z European model for Saturday morning here over much of the lower 48 here, especially for the Midwest and the Ozarks, we do have a confluence band that is going to be setting up here. This is going to bring about the threat for some severe weather. Saturday not looking all that bad compared to with what we will be dealing with on Sunday. It's going to be bad in another way. That's because there's going to be a lot of freezing rain and icy conditions up here across the Great Lakes into the Northeast. This is going to be a really big problem. We're talking more than a half an inch in many areas of ice. We'll get to that in a little bit here. That's going to lead to a lot of power outages, property damage, that sort of thing. And on top of that, we're going to look at some strong winds that's going to make power outages even occur even easier. To the north of that, moderate to heavy snow, because temperatures should be cold enough in the vertical column to keep things snowy aloft, and that snow just falls to the ground. But it's going to be a wet snow. Okay, now as we go forward here into Sunday morning, yeah, interesting setup gets going here. We get a surface low. The one that's going to develop on Saturday, it's going to be marching along into the upper Midwest here. So we have a surface low over Cedar Rapids in Iowa, as well as in southern portion there of Wisconsin. Nice good warm front actually is going to be draped over the region here. We got a nice good cold front and dry line that's going to settle in across the Red River Valley into the Mississippi Valley into the deep south as well. Out ahead of this, we are looking at some good, decent destabilization that is going to occur out of the free warm sector here. We got a cold front, that's going to be the trigger mechanism, but we also got some confluence bands out of this, especially over Mississippi into Tennessee. These are going to be the storms that we are going to need to watch for the potential for strong to intense tornadoes, giant hailstones, 3 or 4 inches in diameter, and the risk for strong damaging winds as well, exceeding 60 plus miles an hour. All right, so that's going to be the ingredients. And then by Sunday afternoon, like we just talked about, there it is. There is our broken line of storms, supercells, because we're going to have oroglothal flow over the boundary, not parallel to the boundary. So anything that does form off this cold front or dry line should remain fairly discreet and capable of producing those giant hailstones and some strong winds and tornadoes. Up here to the north, though, over Indiana, where we do have a more of a Boeing segment that does show up here to be the risk for damaging winds, a more enhanced wind damage up there because the kinematics are going to be more favorable for that. Now, by Monday early morning for your morning commute, that low moves into Canada, and woo, yeah, there'd be a lot of ice and snow and strong winds with that. Stormy Monday morning for Canadian provinces here, and including for the Northeast with those strong pressure gradient winds. And then, of course, the renewal of showers and thunderstorms here moving into the Ozarks, the Deep South, even into the upper Midwest, like the Columbus Valley, I should say, here into the mid-Atlantic. All right, so yeah, an active day coming up for both Sunday and Monday. Looks like more kind of a lower end threat on Monday, especially for the mid-Atlantic, but we can't rule out some intense discrete cells out of this because of the kinematics are going to be generally favorable for that to occur. And then that moves out. We get a little reprieve before we get into Wednesday. All right. And I've said this in yesterday's video that Wednesday looks more dynamic, looks more concerning for a risk of that severe weather. And you can see it here on the European model. This is 5 days, folks. This is not a hypothetical forecast by any means, and it is showing some intense broken line of storms. Now, the good thing about this, I should say, is anything that does develop early on in the period here tends to be a little bit more elevated because we get more radiational cooling, we get decoupling of the atmosphere, so we don't see more surface-based convection until we get into like Wednesday afternoon, and that's when things get rooted from the surface boundary. We get more deeper convection, and this is where we could have strong tornadoes. There's a fair amount of discrete broken activity here across the Mississippi area, Arkansas, southern Illinois, as well as southern Indiana. In fact, next week looks very comical of a severe weather outbreak. And I don't say that very lightly because of the dynamical lift that we're seeing, upper level ascent that we have overspreading this warm sector. So yeah, Wednesday looks very problematic, unfortunately, for, again, the same areas, repeated severe weather events that happen over the same area time and time again. And then up here, we could be looking at more freezing rain, snow, and sleet conditions. Just winter does not want to really depart our region yet. Now that we looked at the radar forecast, let's take a look at how much snowfall you're going to see. And we're going to be looking at the freezing rain amounts because those are looking straight up crippling. A crippling ice storm for the Great Lakes into the Northeast. So snowfall totals here from the National Blend of Models. This is the super blend of all the models combined to make a pretty good, accurate forecast. And what we're looking at here is anywhere between about 5 to 8 inches of snow, maybe up to about 10 inches of snow here across the northern end of Michigan. Yes, this is the main state, the mitten state. And then, of course, you got Michigan that extends up here across Lake Huron and some of the other Great Lakes. And then over here, you got right around about an inch or two of snow. So not a big snow maker here in portions of the northern plains like the Dakotas and Minnesota. It's mainly across Canada and Michigan region. And then, of course, the Northeast here, you might see anywhere between about 1 to 3 inches of snowfall. Actually, maybe even up to locally 6 inches in some of the snowiest prone areas. But instead, because of our vertical column where it's warm aloft, above freezing, and we get very cold temperatures at the surface, we get this cold air trapping, and the warm front, everything's going to work in its favor. We are looking at a crap ton of freezing rain and ice accumulations here. And I don't like to say the word crap in my videos very much, but I'm using that in today's video because, I mean, these freezing rain amounts, and this is assuming we get accretion, okay? This is the more conservative amount of freezing rain and ice that you see. And look at this, northern Wisconsin, Minnesota, look at this, anywhere between about 4/10 of an inch up to maybe 1/2 an inch. Some areas here locally up to 6/10 of an inch. That will be enough to really bring down power lines, branches, some infrastructure damage. And then when you get up here into, say, northern Michigan, the main state here, the mitten state that is, anywhere between about 3/4 of an inch to even an inch of freezing rain. We will be looking at the graphics here that I drew up here on what my thoughts on this are, because this is pretty crippling. This is going to lead to widespread, long duration power outages. And of course, over here in portions of the Northeast, rest of Canada, we're looking at anywhere between about an inch or two of freezing rain. And look at this. Some of the valleys here, I think this is a little overdone by the NAM 3-kilometer model. It tends to do this a little bit, but look at this. I mean, maybe up to an inch to an inch and a half of ice in the Vermont Valley, as well as portions here of, say, New Hampshire could see up to an inch of ice. And that's enough to really, really test a lot of infrastructure, lots of widespread damage could occur under this amount of ice. Now, another very concerning aspect to the forecast here is how much rainfall you're going to be dealing with over the next 10 days. And I'm not saying this very lightly, folks. 10 days, all of the models that you're about to see here are honing in on the same exact scenario over the Ozarks and the Deep South. These areas have had way too much rainfall, and you're going to be seeing a lot more coming your way by the middle and by the early part, well, starting this weekend, throughout most of next week and the week after. So looking at the European model here over the next 10 days, look at the rainfall totals that accumulate here over Arkansas, over Louisiana, 10 to 16 inches of rainfall. Yes, 10 to 16 inches. Little Rock, Arkansas could see up to 16 inches of rainfall over the course of 10 days. Memphis, Tennessee, Western Tennessee, 10 to 15 inches of rainfall. Southern Indiana, 16 inches of rainfall there. And Western Kentucky, 10 to 12 inches of rainfall. That's a foot and a half, between a foot to a foot and a half in these areas. And it's not just that. Here's a look at the GFS model. So that was a look at the European, the GFS model, also honing in on the same exact thing. Let me zoom out here so you all can see this. 18 inches of rainfall. 18 inches from the GFS, the Global Forecasting System model, honing in on this. And I looked at some of the ensembles in this area, anywhere between 8 to 12 inches of rainfall. Based on most of the ensembles. This is not an ensemble, but it's a deterministic forecast. But it gives us an idea that there's a very likelihood here that we are going to see significant flooding, possibly extreme flooding concerns here on some of the smaller creeks, streams. I mean, hurricane rainfall totals. It's not even a hurricane, but like, wow. Okay, this is a look at the Canadian model. Also honing in on the same thing. This one is most aggressive here, showing one area here in western Tennessee, northeastern Arkansas, 17 to 21 inches of rainfall. That's almost 2 feet, folks. I mean, if this pans out, if whatever the Canadian shows, right, this is going to be an apocalyptic situation that we have not seen in 10 plus years with this amount of rainfall in around the 5 to 10 day mark. In that stretch, we're looking at a lot of rainfall accumulation here. Okay, even in Indiana, Ohio, man, 6 inches of rainfall. That's killer. That is just menacing to see. Even in western Texas or eastern Texas, lots of rainfall as well. So yeah, make sure you get prepared for some flooding. It's going to be a problem. Even on the Icon model, showing a lot of rainfall as well. Look at this, 19 inches of rainfall between all of the models that you see here. This is not just one model, folks. This is multiple models and ensembles showing the same exact thing. In fact, here's a look at the European ensemble forecast. You see it right there on your screen, 8 to 10 inches of rainfall from all 50 members, including the operational. That's 51 members, folks, showing you all an average between about 8 to 10 inches across the Ozarks and the upper Midwest. Now, with that being said, the Storm Prediction Center has issued a level 3 enhanced risk for severe weather across much of the Ozarks into the upper Midwest here. This is a significant risk because when we take a look at our significant probabilistic forecast from the Storm Prediction Center that is ran by the National Weather Service, they are predicting a 30% significant for severe weather. That includes large, very large, in fact, even giant hail. We're looking at significant winds perhaps, and yes, significant tornadoes. Some of them could be strong and intense, so that is why there is a significant hatched area for day 3, and I'm assuming this is probably going to go moderate, okay? And where it's going to go moderate is down here, and I will explain that right now on why I see a moderate risk out of this for day 1 or even day 2. But first of all, here's a look at my snowfall forecast here, and all these graphics are hand-created by me. Got the cities up, got the counties up. I hope you do like the layout of these graphics. All right, I have more coming right now. So snowfall total, what I'm forecasting north of Marquette in Michigan, around a foot of snow is what I'm thinking with this winter storm. But when it comes to the amount of ice, and by the way, some of these colors that I'm using are what the National Weather Service actually uses too. How cool is that? So ice amounts, and this is for Friday through Sunday, all right? And what we're looking at here is anywhere between about a quarter of an inch all the way up to about an inch is what I'm forecasting here. Even so, some of the high-res models are showing 2 inches. That's a little aggressive, but an inch will cause extreme concerns. Crippling ice storm, that's crippling. That is pretty substantial. All right, so make sure you are prepared for power outages and that sort of thing over the next day or two, and they could last quite long because there's going to be also some strong winds. But now, why do I think there's going to be a moderate risk of severe weather associated with this severe weather event, outbreak, episode, however you want to call it for Sunday? Well, this is the Sunday morning through Monday morning time frame, and looking at the surface winds, and of course, the colors of the arrows tell us what level we're looking at, all right? You'll see this on soundings too. When you click on them, you look at the photograph, it starts off pink in the lowest levels, and then it goes red and so on. So surface winds here anywhere between 15 to about 25 miles an hour. At the very surface, they are coming in out of the southerly direction. So we're looking at our SLIM index, shear lift instability moisture. Now, looking at the low levels, our winds are going to be anywhere between about 30 to about 60 miles an hour, okay? So at about 850 millibars is what we're looking at. And for reference, this is our hodograph. This is our tool that I drew up here. This took me a little while to make. And you can see here, looking at the first 3 kilometers, surface winds out of the southerly direction. They curve back towards the southerly and even out towards the southwesterly direction. And that is going to be our directional and speed shear with height that is going to be overspreading. And then when we look at our mid-levels, this is our jet stream. Of course, I didn't use the whole thing. This would take me hours to draw up if I did. And that's why this video is coming out late, because of all these graphics that I've made for you all in today's video. I hope you like these. I really do. Because this did take me about 5 or 6 hours to make all of this. So mid-levels, really strong, 90 plus mile an hour winds at around 15 to 20,000 feet above the surface over Indianapolis, Chicago, Peoria, and again, that's going to lead to large, curved, elongated hodographs over this area. However, the instability doesn't look as sufficient up there that I'm about to show you in a second. But looking at our lift and forcing mechanism, we're looking at modest to strong amounts of lift in the atmosphere over the free warm sector here, as you can see. And when we take a look at our instability here for Sunday morning through Monday morning, yeah, the instability is going to be pretty significant, especially over Shreveport, Little Rock, Memphis, because we're going to have really steep mid-level lapse rates of about 8 to 9 degrees Celsius, overlapping or overspreading this very warm, buoyant air mass with dew points that are in the 70s. We'll be showing those here in a second. This is going to lead to significant instability by the afternoon hours with plenty of surface heating that takes place. And speaking of those lapse rates, yeah, we're looking pretty significant. Springfield, Fayetteville into Little Rock, Memphis, Tennessee. Forgot to put actually St. Louis on the map here. I do apologize. We'll be working on a fix in just a little bit on that, probably tomorrow in tomorrow's video. And we're looking at about 8.5 to 9 Celsius of lapse rates. That within an environment characterized by pretty good dew points here. In Shreveport, Houston, dew points between 65 to 70 degrees. All the way up into Indianapolis, we're looking at dew points in the mid-60s. That, again, is going to lead to pretty good instability by the afternoon hours. And that's going to be leading to, if we get any supercell in this environment, we are going to see intense, long-lived tracked supercells capable of very large to giant hailstones, 2 to 4 inches in diameter. We're looking at wind gusts, folks, anywhere between 60 to 70 miles an hour, and the potential for intense tornadoes, mainly strong, but a few intense tornadoes, EF3 plus in this environment. And that is what I'm concerned about, because when we get this amount of instability, we tend to get a lot of vorticity stretching in the atmosphere, and that really augments tornadogenesis. But anyways, if you found this video really helpful, detailed, and informative, please don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the bell notification icon, hit the thumbs up, like button, and also share this video with your family and friends on social media. As always, we're going to do a Saturday Night Live, but it's going to be a whole different story because I'm going to be making even more graphics for you all about this upcoming severe weather event for Sunday. So anyways, I will see you back here tomorrow.